Hey everyone, what's the crack? In today's video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, as the title will already have told you. Just to pre-warn you, I will be talking through this, so if the camera focus annoys you, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to deal with that through editing, so yeah, I feel your pain. I feel you. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a bit of a book review on the latest Star Trek Voyager books by Kirsten Beyer. I knew that the next book following the last one, Acts of Contrition I think it was called, it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger with Janeway going over to the bad guys for a trial and ultimate execution, and I was just like, what? No, you cannot do that to Janeway, you cannot do that to my girl. No, that is not happening. So that book was going to be released in August of 2015, and naturally I kind of forgot. I know, bad Cassie, what are you doing? Hand over your fangirl card right now. I know, I'm awful. But it wasn't until a couple weeks ago that I remembered that that book had been released, and I thought, right, I'll pay for it now, I'll download it, I'll get it. Then I found out that there were two books, that there was Atonement and A Pocket Full of Lies, and I was just, I need them now. I need them in my life now. I need to know what happens to my girl, whether she lives or dies, because she's already died in the book canon. That book where she dies is the worst book I've ever read in my entire life, and I did English literature for GCSE, A-level and university degree. I've read a lot of books, but the beautiful writers of the post-Voyager book canon brought her back to life, so she was safe. And so when they were going to like execute her, I was like, this is not happening. This is not happening at all. No way, not gonna happen. Started off with Atonement, which is this book right here. So this is the book cover of it. It is so gorgeous, and it's of Janeway in her Admiralty uniform. It started off pretty well. You know, it was just straight bang into the action, and it just starts off with the crew obviously trying to formulate a rescue plan for Janeway, because, you know, they're not gonna leave her there with this alliance that wants to kill her. I had completely forgotten what happened in the previous book. I have that problem. I keep forgetting what happens in previous chapters and in previous books, and since it's been a while since I've read any of them, I was just lost a little bit. But it didn't take me long to get caught up, and I remembered, oh yeah, Kashyyyk is one of the ones are dead, but he was in Counterpoint. They left with a big massive snog, so I was like, what's going on here? And then I forgot about the hologram Megan, who was possessed by an entity of some description. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Dope. And then of course in the books, Janeway and Chakotay are in a relationship, which I'm loving. They have such sweet little moments together. It's just the fangirl shipper in me just really loves those chapters. She really does. Naturally, the start of the book is dealing with them rescuing Janeway, trying to rescue her from this execution, but they don't know that Janeway's got a bit of an ace up her sleeve. She's got her sassy pants on. She's got them on. She's zipped them up, she's buttoned them, and she's wearing them. What? So when Janeway gets into her really sassy moments, I just eat those things up. I read those chapters so fast that it actually makes my head spin. I'm like, actually, what happened? Kirsten Beyer is one of the best writers for Voyager. She really is. She really gets a grasp of all of the characters. Since the show ended and the books began, a whole load of characters have been introduced. New, old, different series ones, different book ones, and there's a lot of characters going on. And in Atonement, it's set over two quadrants. There's the Delta Quadrant and then the Alpha Quadrant, and there are a number of storylines going on as well. The ones within the Full Circle fleet, there's the one regarding Tom Paris, and then there's the one regarding Samantha Wildman, and then there's one regarding Seven of Nine. And they bounce all over the place with all chapters, and if you've read A Song of Ice and Fire, that can get annoying, because one chapter you're reading Sansa, the next you're reading Tyrion, the next you're reading Daenerys, and it can get confusing, especially when one chapter ends on a cliffhanger and then the next one is you're back to 7 of 9. I just want to know what happens with Janeway. Just give it back to Janeway. And so that's what I was dealing with the entire book. I was dealing with the whole situation of the Janeway scenario of her execution and dealing with this entity that's possessing people, and the only way to get them out is if that person dies. What can you do there? What can you do? And then there's the whole situation with Tom, and then there's the whole situation with Seven, and then Samantha Wildman and this whole Borg virus thing. Anybody who knows me knows that Janeway is my favourite. I love Janeway oriented storylines like nothing else. Not so fast on Seven. Gotta say. Gotta put it out there, I'm not so fast on her. Her storyline was good, but it didn't grab me as much as the Janeway one. Or even the Tom one, that was really good because it really pulled at my heartstrings because I love him and B'Elanna. They have an amazing storyline post-series, and it is full of angst and full of drama that I just really, really love it. But the Seven one, and even the Samantha Wildman, Naomi Wildman, insert pronunciation of her husband's name here, they just didn't grab me. They weren't as fast paced. They got a pace towards the end of the second act of the book. It was only then that I was like, oh, this actually is going pretty well. They're actually getting the ball rolling. It took a while for the ball to roll on that one. It was disappointing that it took me a while to grasp what they were doing. I completely forgot what Samantha Wildman was doing in the previous book because it's been a while. I was like, oh yeah, she's doing that. Why is she doing that again? I really did enjoy Atonement. It moved at a well enough pace. As I said, Kirsten Beyer writes beautifully for Voyager. She's amazing at writing Voyager. There was never really a dull moment in the book. It might have been like a slower paced moment, but it was never ever dull. The way that she writes, you're just like sucked in. She has a great grasp of the series, you know, what happened in moments, you know, in like Counterpoint, because she's brought in all of Counterpoint. She's brought in so many different species from the later series, you know, the Fadwar, the Touré, the Voth, and, you know, the likes of Kashyyyk, who was so manipulative of Janeway, and she in return manipulated him. And she got that relationship down pat. That was just perfect. The way she wrote the Janeway and Kashyyyk concern was just phenomenal. I really loved that. And the way that she writes action is really, really good. Sometimes when you're writing action for Star Trek, you can get lost in it. You can get lost in it. Oh crap, who were they aiming at, or what direction had them going in? And it can get very overwhelming, but the way that she wrote it was just perfect. It was just really, really beautifully written. And there are times when she actually recycles a few things from storylines. Like, I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but the way that she got one of the entities out, one of the people that they occupied, was to kill them in a monitored environment and then bring them back to life. I think that's probably been done in one time, at least in all of the series of Star Trek. In Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, I'm pretty sure they've done that at least once with any kind of character. Like, even though it wasn't to get an entity out of them, in Barge of the Dead, they purposefully killed B'Elanna and then brought her back to life. I really enjoyed Atonement. I read that in about 4 days, but that was with work and filming tutorials and editing tutorials and getting stuff up online and just watching YouTube and things like that. So that is Atonement. The next book that followed Atonement was A Pocket Full of Lies, and this is the artwork right here for it. Again, by Kirsten Beyer. This book, oh my god, I read this so fast that it actually made my head spin. It was so good. I kid you not, I love this book so much. Because if you read this synopsis, you realize that the leader of the war between the Rilnar and the Zal is Catherine Janeway. And you're like, but she's right there, she's with the Full Circle Fleet, what is she doing? But if you remember, the Zal were briefly mentioned in the episodes Year of Hell, which was against the Krenim, which brings in the whole Krenim scenario. If you ever watched Year of Hell, that was a phenomenal 2-part episode where Janeway really just pushes the boundaries of what she can physically take and what Voyager can physically take, because it was falling apart. Decks were uninhabitable. They had an indoor nebula at one point. The ship was abandoned, and all that was left were Tuvok, Harry, Seven, B'Elanna, and Janeway, and Neelix. They were the only people on the ship. And then she told them to all go, and then she just rammed Voyager into the Crown of Time ship, and everything was just reset. It was like a action-packed two-parter. For Kirsten Beyer to bring this into a book series, how are they going to do that? How are they going to have an extra Janeway in there? And of course, when they encounter that Janeway, it's a past Janeway who has just known Tom for an insignificant amount of time and known Chakotay for even less time. I got to that point so quickly. I probably started reading it at 10 o'clock at night. I did not put it down until about 2 a.m. And I refused to put it down until I actually met that alternate Janeway. The way that Kirsten writes and the plot twists that she puts into it are just incredible. I love them so much. She really does take you into a spin and then just stops you. You know what, it's like you're on that gyrosphere that they put pilots in or whatever, and then she just like puts you all around, and then she just stops you. And that's where the kicker is. And you're just like, what? No way. And I don't really want to give many spoilers for this book because it is just so good. I loved it so much. I really felt for the other Janeway. There was a moment in it with her other storyline that I was like, I bet you this is what is driving her, and it actually was. And then I actually thought, right, because this was mentioned in one of the previous chapters, that the ending is going to go this way. Boy, was that wrong. No. And that's what I love about her writing and her plot twists and just the way that she communicates everything to the reader. You might think that you have her sort of sussed. No, don't believe that for a second. Because she's probably understood that you've thought that and then just goes, just wait till I see what I've got in store for you. Just wait till you see what I've got in store for you. You're gonna be so wrong. Again, in this book you get really sweet Janeway and Chakotay moments because they all feel a responsibility to the other Janeway because she's a Starfleet officer, Prime Directive, Temporal Prime Directive. You know, they're trying to convince her to come home, to come back to Earth. It's kind of like, what are they gonna do with an extra Janeway? It's like God knew what he was doing when he just created one of them. And you want two to coexist in the one universe. Especially when Janeway's known to be like, when two Janeways team up, it's always great. Getting there, it's a bit messy. Do I need to mention Deadlock or Endgame? Didn't think so. With A Pocket Full of Lies, there were not many extra storylines. I thought there were going to be at least the same amount as there was in Atonement. No, and thankfully there wasn't. There was just maybe a couple of extra locations for action, but they were all contained within the same chapter. A chapter might have started with a different location, but most of the time it was all contained. It wasn't spread over a huge amount of space or time. It was either on the planet, on a ship, or on a different ship. Fantastic. I loved it. It was great because that held my attention because they were all kind of interconnected. What one ship was doing directly impacted Janeway, or whatever the other Janeway was doing impacted the other ship and Voyager. And so I wasn't like saying, oh jeez, well, here we go again. Here's Tom Paris, or here's 709 going off on something completely stupid. But I really liked it. I even loved the little cameo by one of my favorite captains. It's not Picard. Think about what happened after Voyager ended. You get what I'm saying? In one of the movies. After Voyager. Getting it now? Made a little cameo. As I said, it just held my attention so much. I hated putting it down. There were nights when I was going to sleep at probably 1 o'clock in the morning on a 6 a.m. shift. That's how much I really loved this book. I got it finished in about 3 days, and that was with work and doing things and editing and just, you know, having a bit of a life. Again, her characterizations were fantastic. I really love how Kirsten Beyer writes her characters. Some other Star Trek writers don't particularly have a great concept of their characters. Especially in the likes of Next Generation, there are some times when they refer to each other in the wrong kind of context. You know, when they're having a bit of a familial conversation, they'll say their rank, or they would say their surname, and sometimes it just wouldn't sit right with me for some reason. It might not make sense, but just never sat right with me. In Next Generation, some characters are not characterized well. Beverly Crusher, for example, and that's where I'm just going to leave it, because nobody writes Beverly well at all that I've encountered so far. In Voyager with Kirsten Beyer, she writes her characters true to the core. You know, she gets Janeway, she gets Chakotay, she gets Harry, she gets Tom, she gets them all, and that is so refreshing for like a fan like me to watch, because I love Voyager. It's my favourite Star Trek. It's the first one that I started watching, and it's the first one that I loved. They're the characters that I love the most, especially Janeway. She's my favourite. And so I'm going to be looking at Voyager through a very, very, very tight scope. Like, I will notice if things aren't right. I will notice if they're not quite right. It's something that I will hold any Voyager author accountable for. Reading these books has actually got me really, really excited and into Voyager again. When I read the first lot of books that I had, I became so much invested in Voyager. I rewatched it, and it's actually made me want to watch Voyager all over again. It's made me remember these episodes. It's made me remember these moments that got me so excited about the series in the first place, especially bringing in Counterpoint. And with this version of Janeway in a pocket full of books, she is an amalgamation of so many different versions of Janeway that we've seen in the series. It's a caretaker Janeway, a deadlock Janeway, a Counterpoint Janeway, Year of Hell Janeway, and Living Witness Janeway, and Shadow Janeway. And if you remember Living Witness, you know what kind of Janeway that is, and that's the kind of one that's in this book, mixed with Year of Hell. It's just so much fun when you actually see them together. It's just a phenomenal moment in books. I could not read it fast enough, and then I'm wondering now, what am I going to do in my life now that I have to wait to 2017 to find out what happens next. That was a bit of a long-winded thing. I don't even know if I made much of a point in this, but if you do like Star Trek Voyager, and if you like to read the Voyager books, I highly, highly recommend them. I read them all, like from Homecoming straight through to A Pocket Full of Lies, and every single one of them is an amazing book. Like, I read the Homecoming books in 2 days. That's 2 books in 2 days. I've never read that fast in my life, not even for university. The books have really created a really amazing timeline post-series. I can't imagine Voyager going any other direction post-series thanks to these books, and they've made me love the characters even more, made me appreciate them even more. I cannot wait for the next one. I'm gonna have to. If you like Voyager books, and they are not by any means fanfic, they are amazing. They are so much better than fanfic, and I've read quite a lot of fanfic, yet these books are amazing, thoroughly enjoyable, completely readable. There are some storylines that will get a bit tiring, but that just depends on who your favourite characters are. It's the same as the seasons. Like, there are episodes that are going to be more boring to you because they're not your favourite characters, whereas ones that are my favourite character ones will be magnificent. Again, I don't know if I made a point in this, but I would highly, highly recommend these books, especially because they're written by Kirsten Beyer. She is my favourite author for Star Trek Voyager books. She knows the characters inside and out. She has amazing little storylines. At the end, in the acknowledgements, she writes that she's had that storyline for the alternate Janeway in her head for years. Let's just say it is not by any means a little storyline. It is so good, and you will just devour it if you're anything like me. So thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much with my little fangirl review of the Star Trek Voyager books Atonement and A Pocket Full of Lies, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye guys! Check it out! Check it out, check it out, check it out! I've come up Voyager. Live long and prosper!